Welcome to the Growth Now Movement. I'm your host, Justin Shank. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and podcaster who years ago decided to go on a journey on how to grow in all areas of my life. What I found out was it's really a matter of focusing on the 4 pillars of life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. And that's what we do here. We explore how to continuously grow in those areas, all while having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really excited you're on this journey with me. Now let's get to this week's episode. This week, I sit down with Owen Asztalos. Owen is officially the youngest guest to ever appear on the Growth Now Movement at just 15 years old. But I'm going to tell you this right off the bat, you won't believe that he's only 15. What he's learned in life about mindset and work ethic is really, really mind-blowing, and you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. Owen started acting professionally when he was just 3 years old, performing in live theater and commercials. Owen's first feature was the raucous comedy Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where he played the well-intentioned, albeit naive Rowley. Owen has appeared on several television shows, including Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Shades of Blue, Jessica Jones, and The Flight Attendant. And after a grueling audition process, Owen landed his first lead in a feature as Young J.D. Vance in Netflix's Imagine Entertainment's Hillbilly, Elegy. Of the experience, Owen says, I can safely say that working with Ron Howard has been the most incredible experience of his entire life. To have the privilege of coming to set every day and watch a man who's made 70-plus movies, ridiculous. He's a genius and the best at what he does. Hands down, I'm super grateful for the entire experience. I couldn't have asked for a better mentor, nor a better role. Owen's other passions include traveling with his ice hockey team and playing guitar, which we're going to get into the guitar story, which is really funny as to why he really started taking guitar seriously. He now plays with a band locally and a blues band here in my hometown. Fun fact, Owen actually lives in my hometown, so this is an extra added bonus just for me personally to see the success come here from Reading, Pennsylvania, to go on to star in massive films with incredible actors and actresses, and this is just the beginning for him. But really this conversation, like I mentioned, was about mindset and motivation and how do we get ourselves going in life, even when we have the pull of screens and iPads and all the fun things kids do, or even all the fun things adults do, right? How do we stay dedicated to our craft? I think you guys are going to love this conversation. Now, before we get there, I want to ask a favor of you guys. If you're loving this show, please head over to iTunes, give it a 5-star rating, write a review. Let me know what you think. I read every single one of them, and it truly makes my day when I read a good review, and I appreciate all of you for listening. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Owen Asztalos. Owen, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Justin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited about the conversation. You don't remember meeting me for the first time, but I remember meeting you for the first time. And I'd known your mom for a while at that point, and I met you, and I remember just being blown away by your composure, by how you carried yourself. And I mean, you were probably 10 or 11 at the time. And now you're 15 and officially the youngest guest on my show, which I'm really, really excited about, man. But, I had reached out to your mom and I was like, hey, I want to interview Owen because you came out with a phenomenal film that's on Netflix right now, which is Hillbilly, Elegy. I think I said that right. And it was a phenomenal film that has garnered a ton of great press and feedback and amazing actors and actresses on it. And it's really cool to see somebody local from our town, blowing up on the scene, man. But let's talk a little bit about who you are today, and then we'll break down how you got there.
All right, yeah, let's do it. I'm 15 years old. I'm local around here from Reading, PA, and yeah, I've recently sort of had this movie come out, and I've been recognized as this local actor. But I've also been playing guitar, and I'm sort of starting to break into the music scene, which is really, really, really cool. And then also I have invested into this like fitness journey of staying in shape and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Dude, I love it. And obviously what I see across the board and anybody who follows you on Instagram, you share a lot of this stuff. You share the fitness journey, you share the music journey, you share all of that stuff. And it's truly been a labor of love for you over the years to break into acting and all this stuff. And I want to start with the idea of where did the joy or the desire to act come from in your life?
I think I've just always been sort of surrounded by that sort of culture my whole life, It stemmed from a very young age, just watching, old Elvis, cassette tapes at my grandfather's house, or listening to the Speedway soundtrack in my mom's car, like whatever. And just sort of being exposed to this great showmanship very early on from somebody like Elvis, who really sort of laid down the foundations, where I would wear this like little Elvis jumpsuit around town, and go to car shows with my dad, and have this like little guitar that I would just, obviously I didn't really play it, but I was just messing around. But that was sort of the thing that I was really into when I was little. And then it just developed into this, thing where I was investing into every single, sort of media that I was exposed to, whether it was like Harry Potter or Batman or Indiana Jones or like whatever. But you would always catch me dressed up as Indiana Jones or dressed up as Harry Potter, and like fully invested into these complex parts that I would create for myself. And it sounds really, really bizarre to say, but it's true. I mean, I was just so into these imaginary worlds, and just, seeing this collapsed train in my backyard when really it was just this open field of nothing. And then now I sort of get to do that as my job, and I get paid to look at, like a green screen or like whatever, and see a collapsed train when really it's just nothing. It's just a wall,
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
That's sort of,
obviously you don't go from, hey, I want to be a Elvis impersonator at the young age that you started that, to jumping into the movies overnight, right? Like obviously there's a whole progression there. So what was it about you being like, I want to take this leap? Like I want to take this chance. And obviously as a young kid, it's a little bit different, but what was the mindset there? Was it your parents? Was it you? What was the driving force?
Yeah, it was pretty much all me. I mean, it was one summer that I sort of had nothing else going on. I had taken some like summer hockey stuff before, and done a little bit of the sports thing, but I wasn't really into it. And then my mom said like, hey, like, do you want to take a theater camp this summer? And I said, sure. So I ended up taking this theater camp, and then I took the same camp the next summer, and I got introduced to Joel Gorey, who's part of the Metamorphosis theater project. It's his thing that he runs. But I got introduced to him, and he was putting on a play of Beethoven. And he said, hey, we're putting on this play with the Reading Symphony Orchestra. Do you want to play Young Beethoven? And my parents were like, sure. And he just sort of picked me out of one of the kids at his out of his theater camp. So I ended up playing this part in front of all these people. Obviously it was these local people in Reading. And then after that play, he sort of guided my parents into the direction of on-screen acting, and said, if this is something that Owen wants to do, you should look into sort of these ways that he can get involved by doing it. So I found some representation. We ended up finding an agent then. And from there, they did pretty much most of the heavy lifting as far as finding me auditions and stuff like that, to sort of just get my foot in the door.
Yeah, no, I love. So it's like the acting bug bit you at such a young age. Was it the energy off of the audience? What was it about? Or was it that young age of like watching Indiana Jones being like, I want to do that. I want to. Yeah. No, I mean,
exactly. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. It was, it wasn't one of those things where I was like, oh my God, like I love this feeling of, playing this part. It was more just so, I want to play this part. So then maybe one day, I could be Batman, or I could be, like Spider-Man, like whatever. Like, I mean, that's just sort of what it was always about for me, or just being able to be in my favorite movies and TV shows. Like I loved the Mighty Ducks when I was a little kid. And that was always my thing is I wanted to be in a Mighty Duck movie. And I actually had an opportunity to be in one, but and ended up falling out the door. But it's all right. Honestly, I think it worked out for the best. Yeah. But still, like obviously I was so close to that dream from such a young age coming to fruition, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. By the way, how did you get introduced to all these old movies? Because you're naming stuff that I grew up on, like Indiana Jones and Mighty Ducks, and that was my childhood. Was that your parents being like, "This is what we know"?
Yeah, it was really funny. I was just talking to my dad about this the other day, actually. When I was little, I used to have like that like little backseat like movie theater where you can put like the little like screen on the headrest. And I used to have that. And my dad just one day, he told me, he said he just went to the store and picked out a bunch of movies that he thought like a little kid would like. And it was just Indiana Jones, Star Wars Episode 4, Mighty Ducks, and like all this stuff. And that was pretty much the stuff that I just watched on repeat on this little screen in the back seat.
I love it, man. And you know, it's so funny you talking about being a kid and being like, oh yeah, we had TVs hanging on the back seat of our car. Like I grew up with this huge box TV we had to sit it on the ground of our living room. And the only place I was watching it was when I was homesick from school, like laying on the floor. But yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of like, you're truly pursuing your passion. There's a lot of people who listen to this show, whether they're your age or whether they're 50 or 60 or 70 years old, and they didn't pursue their passion. Like it was literally like, okay, they kind of accepted what life has dealt them versus I'm going to push forward and really go after my dream. And so how do you feel as the individual kind of pursuing that? Do you have people coming to you and saying, wow, man, you're really an inspiration. Wow, I want to follow in your footsteps. Like, what are you experiencing from that standpoint?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. A lot of that, which is just so mind boggling to me. Cause I mean, these people are so, there's so many people that are held within the confines of whatever is offered to them. You know, as far as the hand that they're dealt in life. And they think that there's no way to break outside of that box. And it's just so like mind boggling to them to see like the kind of stuff that I'm doing. But I mean, one, you know, the first thing that plays a huge part in that is that I was dealt a very generous hand. And I'm so appreciative of that. But also, I mean, it's about doing things that fulfill you in life and being satisfied by those things that fulfill you and avoiding that materialism where it's like if you get stuck on fulfilling yourself by these things and by these things that can be so easily robbed of you and that play in part in that, you know, hand dealt sort of mentality. If you get stuck in that, you'll never truly be fulfilled in life. And it's about fulfilling yourself with the things that you do and the things that you accomplish within yourself, like fitness and like playing guitar and like acting, because those are things that I love to do. And nobody can ever rob me of my happiness because I'll always be doing things that I love to do, you know?
Dude, how are you 15 years old? Like that is so wise, that thought process of just enjoy the journey, right? Like enjoy every single moment, whether it's a yes from the person casting the movie or a no from the person casting the movie to, you know, trying to book, you have a band now, right? Trying to book gigs at local restaurants and bars and stuff like that as well. Like you're going to get yeses and you're going to get nos, but I'm enjoying the process and the journey. Let's talk a little bit about that process and journey and what does it take to get into it, right? People see, you know, it's funny. And I'll kind of highlight me, like what I've done to build this show before I kind of cast it off to you, just to kind of give an example. But, you know, I was podcasting for 3.5 years solid every single week before anybody even recognized me, before anybody even started listening to the show. Like legit, I'd have 65 downloads an episode for the first 3.5 years. And then it paid off, right? It was that consistent effort, that consistent work ethic that paid off. Right now, tens of thousands of people listen to every single episode all over the world. And I feel blessed, right? But it was all that work. But what people see now is they see the success that I have. They see the speaking engagements. They see the live events. They see all this stuff and they go, wow, he got lucky, right? Let's talk a little bit about how people see you now and the Netflix movies. And you have another television show out too, right? Called Flight Attendant or something?
Yeah. The Flight Attendant. That was shot with Kaylee Coluccio, and Mikhail Huisman. And that was an incredible learning experience for sure. I shot, you know, a pretty fair amount of days on that, but I mean it was one of those things that just like the knowledge that I retained from Mikhail and from Kaylee were just incredible. It was really, really a tremendous experience all around.
I love that, man. And it's just even that little snippet there, like it proves that you're constantly learning, right? You're a sponge for knowledge. You're here to get better in the art. Let's talk a little bit about the work ethic that goes into preparing yourself, not just for a role, but for the constant I don't know, what are they called? Auditions. I almost said tryouts. I'm like, that's not right. The constant auditions that you have to go through and the scrutiny at times, I'm guessing that you might go through with these casting directors being like, no, you're not good enough. No this, no that. Talk a little bit about the work ethic and the mindset that goes into that type of process.
Sure. it was really tough when I was a little kid, going out on auditions, and it was really hard on me, especially at first, to sort of face that rejection, and that idea of being told, like that I'm not good enough. But then over time, the weight of the decision means less and less to you. And it sort of just morphs into this thing where it's like, if you sort of, if you're able to climb that first hill of difficulty, the rest of the time, will seem like nothing. And that's sort of the way that I structure my day-to-day life now. Is sort of, I look at it like, if I can get the hardest part of my day done first, then the rest of my day will seem like nothing. So when I wake up every day, I start my day off with a freezing cold shower, because I'm like, okay, if I can take this freezing cold shower, that's the hardest part of my day out of the way. And then I have nothing else that I really have to worry about. And then it's like, if I'm required to do a 5-minute plank at the gym or something, I could do it because I already did my cold shower. And it's sort of creating that mindset. And that's something that came over time with the auditions, was developing that heart to stay into it and to want to continue. But in order to do that, you have to you sort of have to be around the right people to help you to get over that first hurdle, so that way you can overcome the rest on your own. For better or worse.
Yeah, man, I love that. And obviously, just by hearing you talk, you're clearly surrounding yourself with the right people, right? So who would you consider your mentors in this journey that are teaching you these types of things? Like, start with it. By the way, these are things that I didn't learn until I was like 34, like the cold shower theory of starting your day with a cold shower, by the way, which I still don't do. It's a tough one, right? But like, let's talk a little bit about that. Like, where are you learning these things, and how do you decide at your age, at 15, yes, this is a person I want to follow, this is a person I shouldn't follow?
I keep my mentors very close to heart. I obviously I learned those sort of sub foundational things from like my idols, or like whatever, like Mark Wahlberg and Jimi Hendrix, like whatever. But as far as like true mentors go, and true idolism, I keep that very close to home. And my trainer and workout partner, Charlie Sardi, who owns Charlie Sardi's Third Element. I mean, Charlie's like my best friend. He's like my brother at this point. He's like my uncle. He's like, pretty much everything. But just me and him sort of have that connection that you inherently establish with a person whenever you're working out twice a day with them, where you can share things with them and bounce ideas off them, and sort of just say whatever you want to say without worrying about what you're saying, with just that really special person. And then I have a tutor who's local around here, and she's actually a friend of my mom's, but she just she's one of those people also who probably doesn't realize it, but has a lot of wisdom to offer, and a lot of sort of offers me that Zen energy that I thrive off of, to sort of calm my mind, as the best way to put it. And my parents too. I mean, my dad and my mom, obviously raised me, and they both as a team make me who I am. And I sort of, revisit both of them for guidance on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, dude, I love that, man. I love all those answers too, because, I'm very much the same, right? Because I'm friends with some incredible human beings that a lot of the world looks at and they idolize, right? And you become friends with these people, and they're people that I keep super close. But I'm also friends with people that people have never heard of them, and I learned so much from them as well, right? Like those Zen moments, or those little mindset shifts, or whoever I'm spending that time with, I'm able to grow, right? Like that's my one rule. Like whoever I surround myself with or spend my time with, I need to make sure that we're growing together, right? We're not talking about people. We're talking about world events. We're talking about how to grow. We're talking about how to, get to the next level. Again, this isn't something that I learned until later in life, right? Like at 15, to be able to, and I don't mean to harp on the age thing, but it's really that idea. Like when you can lock that in at such a young age, it'll change the trajectory for the rest of your life, as long as you're able to stay in that mindset, right? Like it's absolutely amazing. And so one thing I want to ask you, because being a bonus dad to 2 kids right now who are 10 and 7, I do ask, how do you choose those hard decisions of going and working out twice a day, or going to the audition, or learning the guitar over the video games, over the TV, over the iPad, all that stuff? How are you able to make those decisions? Like, what's the driving force?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just one of those things that sort of goes back to the materialism, I guess, where it's like, there's only so much sort of like, immersion fulfillment that you can get from sitting around, and not, doing stuff. I mean, I loved watching movies when I was a little kid, and I still do, if I'm in bed or something and I'm sort of forced to be in that, confined position. But I always much preferred going out and making the movie myself, in my backyard. I would always rather do that than sit around and watch the movie. And that's why I watched movies when I was in the backseat of my dad's car, because I had nothing else to do. So I would watch the movie and immerse myself in that. But then as soon as I went home, I'd be outside dressed up as, Harry Potter or whoever, and making the movie myself.
Dude, I love it. And by the way, I'm sure if people are listening to this and they go follow you on Instagram, you can find these photos. You can find Owen dressed up like Harry Potter. You can find you dressed up like Elvis. And that's what I love, man. And, you can see the progression of your life, right? And so you're talking a lot about Charlie and the gym and all that stuff. And I've met Charlie before as well. So I'm aware of him. I think maybe once or twice I've met him. But you literally look like a different person than you did a year ago. Like, the progression that you've done physically by putting in the hard work has been absolutely amazing. So here's my question when it comes to that more than anything. When you started to do this, I know you did it for your health and your mindset and everything else that comes with working out twice a day.
Yeah.
Did you think, or did any of your agents say, hey, you're changing your look that you've built this career on in film? How are we going to approach that? Like, was that ever a thought process?
Sort of. I think if it was the other way around, where I was really skinny and then gained a lot of weight, it would have been troubling. But no, it was actually something that my managers and my agents were really happy about. And it sort of makes it easier to find roles for me now, because I can pretty much play whatever the job description is for the most part. So it definitely, that was another reason also too, where I really want to start working out, because I really wanted to play that leading male. And I mean, it's not to sound, discriminatory or anything, but it's like the leading male in the movie, in the blockbuster movie or like whatever, just sort of naturally has to be that, pretty built guy who looks like a capable man, I mean, and that's just sort of the way that society has built that leading character, is like, you're not going to see a heavier, like chubbier guy hanging from like a derailed train. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So it's like, you just naturally your opportunities open up a little bit more as far as genre and characters that you can play.
Dude, I love it. And it too, like, it's funny. People ask me all the time, obviously the podcast started to take off and I started to travel a lot for speaking, and people are like, why do you still live in Reading? And I go, I love my hometown, right? Like I host a live event here, hopefully again post-COVID. It was pre-COVID, and hopefully again post-COVID, but host a live event here not because it makes it easier. It actually makes it a lot harder. We don't have an airport. But it's something close to my heart, and that sticks to my purpose. Do you have goals in the future to move out to LA or New York to pursue this a little bit deeper?
That's the plan, man. No, yeah, I really want to move to California whenever I graduate. I want to get educated out there. I want to go to school, hopefully. University of Southern California is sort of what I'm aiming towards. So if anybody on the board there is listening, please, I hope you guys like my essay. But no, so, that's sort of the plan. And then, I guess I sort of, on the surface have plans to open a production company, where I can sort of make movies, however I want, which would be sort of the dream.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I love the fact that you have just such a vast vision for your life, right? Like it's beyond just the acting. It's beyond all that stuff, right? From getting fit to understand these are the roles I want to play. So therefore I'm going to live my life that way. Or, falling in love with music, which we haven't touched on, I want to touch on in a minute. But what I love about what you're doing in your life from a physical standpoint specifically, is that compound effect of growth, right? Like you didn't start out going from nothing and having these bad habits with your diet and exercise to doing 2 workouts a day. Like that would almost be unsustainable. You did this compound effect. Talk a little bit about that and the thought process behind that. You had said that before I hit record, but I wanted to capture it here for the people listening.
Yeah. So no, yeah, it just sort of it sort of started as this thing where, my trainer was sort of dragging me to the gym and saying, hey, like, let's go work out. Because it was, becoming clear, whenever I started to put on a little bit more weight, whenever COVID started, that I was developing these bad habits. So then, my dad sort of kicked me out of the house and then, dropped me off with the trainer and said, all right, go work out. And it was this involuntary thing. But then, but it was sort of this involuntary thing. And then over time, it became 1 workout once a week, involuntary. And then it morphed into 2 workouts twice a week. And then it became, 1 workout every day. And then eventually it sort of blossoms into 2 workouts every day, which is sort of where I'm at right now. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not one of those things that happens overnight. Like you said, it sort of has to, it's not one of those things that chooses you, but it's, fitness is just a different thing because you really have to want to see results for yourself. You can't, walk into it with a frame of mind like, okay, I can't wait till I get fit. And then everybody sees how fit I am. It's about feeling good. And I just said, I don't want to, sit around playing Call of Duty with my friends until 3:30 in the morning. I don't want to be eating Shamrock shakes from McDonald's whenever I want. I want to feel good. And I want to feel athletic, and that was always a piece of my life that I never got to experience. And I guess sort of the clock just ran its course, until I did want to experience it.
Yeah, dude, I love that thought process behind all that stuff, and obviously to your passion project now of music, right? So how long ago did you actually pick up the guitar and start learning, and why are you drawn to music, and why is that something here's the thing. Most people would be like, I'm really passionate about acting and that's what I'm going to pursue. But you're like, but I also like music, so I'm going to play over here as well. Like, what is it about it that you're being drawn into music a little bit?
I think it's, I don't know. I've back to the whole Elvis thing, right? So I sort of experienced, both sides of this really beautiful coin where, it was the showmanship, but then it was also, such cultural, and diverse taste in music from such an early on. It was Elvis, it was Bob Dylan. It was, who else do I listen to, Mom? The Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, like all these guys, the Rolling Stones, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then it just sort of became this thing where I was like, music always really, really, really just had this effect on me where it could move me, and then I think I got really into it last summer actually, whenever we were shooting Hillbilly Elegy. Because I started listening to different songs to sort of get inspired by scenes. And it was just this thing I sort of attached myself to where I could use this musical product to put me in a particular mindset. And I was like, I really like that. And also, and I'm not, super proud of this, but it's a funny, it's a funny story, but, I took guitar lessons for maybe about 2 years before Hillbilly Elegy, but I wasn't really taking lessons. He was sort of teaching me chords, but I wasn't into it. I never practiced. I mean, I never ever practiced. We always had to relearn the stuff that he taught me the week before. I was just sort of there because I wanted to be able to play Elvis songs, coincidentally, and then I sort of told so many people on the set of Hillbilly Elegy that I played guitar that I sort of had to. So
I love it.
Yeah. So then it became me going to Guitar Center every weekend and getting tips from the employees there, and jamming with them and sort of just being exposed to more really, really, really good local guitar players down in Atlanta. And then that really inspired me to sort of invest in it myself.
Dude, I love it. Like that's putting your money where your mouth is. Like, except putting your mouth where your money is, right? Like you did it backwards, right? The whole cart before the horse thing. But sometimes that puts you in a position, right? Like I look at with my first live event, I was like, I'm doing a live event and these are the speakers I'm having. And it was almost one of those like, okay, it's totally not locked in, but I just told the world that I'm going to do it. And so now I have to do the work to make sure that happens, right? Like you at a young age said, I want to be an actor. And so now you're putting in the work to continue to make that a full-time thing in your life. And you're openly putting it out to the world right now to say, I want to own a production company and I want to do all these other things, which I love. I love hearing all that stuff, man. And like you're truly an inspiration, even just from the mindset thing, right? To understand how to approach life. Like no matter what you end up doing, you're going to be successful because you put in the work. Like you do the things that other people aren't willing to do to create that success, which I love hearing about for sure. So I want to ask you a question that I ask every single person on this show. Because I have the opportunity. I mean, I've done 350 plus episodes with some of the greatest minds in the world. Some of the most successful people in the world, however you want to define success. And so my question for you is, how do you define success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
How do I define success? I mean, I think we sort of talked about it earlier. It's just that feeling within yourself of fulfillment in whatever it is that you're doing. Whether you're whatever. Whether you're working at McDonald's or Wendy's or Giant supermarket or whatever. As long as you're invested within yourself and you're invested emotionally in what you're doing, and it's fulfilling you, that's living a successful life, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I love it, man.
So that's
I love
what
it.
I would say. Yeah.
So what are 3 things you're doing every single day to ensure that success for yourself? I know we touched on some of them, like working out and all that other stuff, but what are the 3 main things you make sure you check off that list?
Yeah, I mean that's So the first thing would be to pray. I try and pray every day for at least like 15 minutes in the morning before I start my day. And then the second thing is definitely workout. I have to work out. And typically if I skip a workout, I'm miserable for the rest of the day. But the first thing is pray. Second thing would be to work out. And then I would say the third thing would be to eat dinner with my family at the end of the day is a really important thing for me. I love it. I would say those are the 3 things that I sort of, more or less refuse to skip out on.
I love it, man. Dude, this conversation has been phenomenal. I'm excited to see where you go next. So what's your plan? Like what do you have next in the books?
Yeah, I think we're sort of casting some lines out there with the whole acting thing. And just seeing what'll bite and what won't, and then also just music. I'm planning on playing at a lot of the big blues places out in Allentown and Williamsport this summer, locally here in Pennsylvania, and then also places in Reading, of course, as well. And I'm playing this Sunday at the Liberty Tap Room. If anybody wants to come out to that at 11:30 to 2:30, and then what else? I think I'm going to be playing some hockey this upcoming summer. I'm going to be playing some 3-on-3 somewhere, which I'm really excited about. Joining the league, which is, like hockey is sort of something that I've always done, but sort of had to take a back seat during COVID. But I'm really happy to be getting back into that and sort of adding that to my routine of things.
Yeah, just throw another thing on the pile, right? Like there's not enough going on. Let me just throw one more thing on. Your parents probably love it, which I'm sure, man.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. My mom was just talking about that yesterday. She's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what you need. It's something else to do."
I love it, dude. That's great. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question, but before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they find you? If somebody sees us, they want to book your band or they want to book you for a movie, what's all the good stuff?
Instagram is the big one. I probably have like the biggest following on there and I'm the most active, I'd say. And then Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff. I mean, Instagram is at the forefront though. So I would definitely say look there first.
What's your username? Just so people know.
Owen. So, just OWEN _ Asztalos, and then ASETALOS.
Awesome, man. I love it. Like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question since the show is called The Growth Now Movement. The question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Definitely the fitness. Definitely the fitness journey. Just because it was something that, I mean, I had no interest in when I was younger. And now my entire life is sort of based around it. The way that I eat, the way that I sleep, the way that I start my day, like everything, is based around my fitness. And that was one of those things that I didn't want to do until I did it. Whereas with acting, it was one of those things that I always wanted to do. And guitar playing was sort of one of those things that I always wanted to do, but didn't really know how to. But fitness, I never wanted to do. And I never thought I would be this fitness junkie that I am now. But I'm so thankful that I am.
Dude, Owen, this has been phenomenal, man. Like, I'm going to rank this up as one of my favorite moments on the show because you never know what you're going to get into when you interview certain people. And I've never seen a long form interview with you and you being 15. I was like, here we go. I'm going to treat it just like every other interview and see how he does. And you knocked it out of the park, man. This conversation has been amazing. I'm excited to see where you go next, man. And excited to stay in touch and just cheer you on as you go forward, man.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Justin. No, I mean, that goes both ways. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for talking to me. And I think, we'll definitely do it again soon, hopefully.
For sure, man. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.